Welcome to Space Rocks. Today we're going to review the space rocks that we talked about last week. And one of the ways I like to do that is by drawing. So I'm setting up my paper for us to review those space rocks from last week. I've got my paper all set up. I have the title, Space Rocks, at the top, and then 3 sections. When I do this is like doodle notes to me. I like to doodle or draw on my papers, and I like to write things out. That's one of the ways that I have learned to remember information. When I write it down, when I draw about it, when I think about it, it helps me remember it. So if you want to do this too, go right ahead. It can help you remember information about these space rocks. All right, last week we talked about 3 main types of space rocks. Can you think of them? First up, let's review asteroids. Asteroids, remember those? Those were those really big space rocks. I'm going to try to draw one right here. All right, and there's another one. Oh, they kind of remind me of those ones in the asteroid belt. Remember those from last week? Right here? I guess mine kind of looks like that. Just trying to remember what it looks like and its size, the special characteristics. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and neither does yours. All right, what do you remember about asteroids? Well, I remember that they are very large, and they are rock and iron objects. That means they're made of rock and made of iron. They orbit the sun, and we have millions of them between Mars and Jupiter. Remember, that's called our asteroid belt. And asteroids are also what we call minor planets. Some even have their own moons. Wow. Here is all of our information about the asteroids. So they are very large, rock and iron objects that orbit the sun, and we have millions of them in our asteroid belt. That's between our inner and outer planets. And these are sometimes called minor planets. Some of them even have their own moons. It's time to review our next space rock. We're going to review comets this time. Comets. Before I draw a comet, let's go ahead and look at what a comet looks like in real life. You remember this? That is going to be tough to draw. Guess I have to try my best. Are you drawing these too? All right, there's my comet. And I want you to think about how asteroids and comets are alike, how they're different. It's time to talk about those comet characteristics. Comets are chunks of frozen gases, rock, ice, and dust. And remember, they have those long orbits around the sun. And they always have those glowing tails that point away from the sun. So that's why it looks like that going through the sky. It's got that tail that always points away from the sun. I can see that comets and asteroids are very different. Asteroids are those very large rocks, whereas comets are chunks of frozen gases, rock, ice, and dust. And they have those long tails that point away from the sun. Both asteroids and comets orbit the sun, but remember, comets have really long orbits around the sun. And frankly, asteroids are just way bigger than those comets. So we're just kind of keeping in mind the ways that these space rocks are alike and how they're different as we discuss them. All right, we're going to talk about our last set of space rocks. Remember, we're talking about 3 of the same thing, but they're all a little bit different. So do you remember what those were? Next up are meteoroids, and I remember that meteoroids are smaller pieces of asteroid that break off and other debris, so it's a smaller rock than an asteroid. So let's see, here is my drawing, and here is the real deal. Do they look alike? So like I said before, meteoroids are pieces of rock that break off of asteroids. And they definitely travel through space. So meteoroids are in space, just like asteroids are in space. Now, meteoroids actually change depending on their location. So we have another type of meteoroid that would be a meteor. And this is what a meteor looks like. Most meteors burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Their location is different. They're not in space. They're actually in Earth's atmosphere. And when it burns up, it actually causes a streak of light. And sometimes we call this a shooting star. So meteoroids are in space and meteors are in Earth's atmosphere. All right, they have one other version of a meteoroid. Do you remember what it is? All right, it's called a meteorite. A meteorite, and this is what a meteorite looks like. Meteorites are just meteoroids that reach Earth's surface. They are right here on Earth. Meteorite, right on Earth. So when we look at those three types of space rocks there, we have meteoroids, meteors, and meteorites. They're all the same thing. It just depends on where they are. Meteoroids in space, a meteor is in Earth's atmosphere, and a meteorite is on Earth's surface. So those three rocks are the same thing, but they do change depending on their location. Meteorites also vary in size. That means they can change in size. So some of the smallest meteorites are dust, and then some of the biggest ones are like this one that we saw before. We've been working on the 5th grade Earth and Space Sciences first standard. The solar system includes the sun and all celestial bodies that orbit the sun. So those celestial bodies are things like asteroids, comets, meteoroids, meteors, and meteorites. I want you to keep looking for ways that these space rocks are alike and ways that they are different. One thing I noticed is that they all orbit the sun. Here's our final Space Rocks poster. The facts next to each one, as well as the pictures, really help me to learn about the unique characteristics of each of these space rocks. What about you? How are you learning the differences and the similarities of these space rocks? I highly recommend doodle notes like these to help you learn. All right, that's all for me. Take care. Peace.